Moving to this now, there's been a number of positive moves on the African continent's aviation sector. The South African Airways is set to reinstate its long-haul service with flights between Cape Town, Johannesburg and São Paulo in Brazil starting on the 31st of October. Just before the COVID-19 pandemic, São Paulo was identified as the fastest growing and unserved market from the Western Cape, with 43,000 passengers traveling between the two regions in 2019. For more on the story, Newzroom Afrika's reporter Ahmed Kajee joins me now in studio. Ahmed, good to have you in studio. Now, with the reinstatement of SAA's long-haul service to São Paulo, how will this affect the airline's overall performance here?
Thanks very much, Infanta. Well, South African Airways has been continuing their business rescue, at least their expansion following their exit from business rescue back in 2020, and then they relaunched in 2021. They have been flying to Kinshasa, Accra, Ghana, and to various other countries and regions within the African continent. So this will be part of their now intercontinental travel. Prior to going into business rescue, they also had flights going out into Europe as well as North America. So we will be expecting that in the coming years. But for South African Airways on this particular front, this at least opens up the intercontinental route. But it's also very promising to think that we may continue seeing those expanded routes going through from Kinshasa, Accra, Lagos, Maputo, also Mauritius also being one of those. One can only assume that this is going to continue to expand. And with those partner airlines, it looks like South African Airways and those who are looking to fly on that particular airline will have lots more options going forward.
I want us to shift gears now and turn our attention to Ethiopian Airways. What makes this new flight route from Addis Ababa to Medina quite significant here?
Yeah, so they have had this in previous years. Obviously, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many routes were suspended. And this route's now going from Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, all the way into Medina, Saudi Arabia. The Hajj season has just ended, the Hajj pilgrimage, and this means now that majority of Muslims in and around the world will be making their way to Saudi Arabia. And Addis Ababa is one of the key, perhaps the key points, or at least the key countries within that particular travel, especially for the African countries below the equator. From a South African point of view, many people would use Addis Ababa as a connector towards getting into the UAE, where they've been to Dubai, or even Saudi Arabia for that front, on that front. So anyone who may be traveling into those areas, who may be looking for a bit of a bargain, this is actually the best way to actually make your way through, connecting through Kenya or through Ethiopia in this particular case, and making their way across. So perhaps instead of traveling directly through to the UAE, or in this case through to Saudi Arabia and Medina for the Umrah season, which will not be going on from now for the next 11 months for the Muslim population around the world, using Addis Ababa either as a stop or perhaps as a direct flight through from Ethiopia will be a great step for those who are going to be going through to Saudi Arabia, and more so what one would assume at least some of the 2 billion Muslims which are going to be making their way through to Saudi Arabia within the next few years. And
still looking at the operations, a lot's been said about the departure and arrival times for this airline. What's significant about this, and why is it different to just conventional times for traveling?
Well, it is just under a 4-hour flight from Addis Ababa into Medina. So the first one takes place at 11 in the evening, and then you land just before 3 a.m. The following morning, and then the return flight is then again at 3:55, and then you're touching down again in Addis Ababa at just before 8 a.m. Now, this allows for a quick turnaround for the aircraft, quick turnaround for many people who would like to make that return, more profitability as well for the airline, because the aircraft, once it's back at Addis Ababa, can then make a few local flights heading and preparing for the next intake as well. So looking forward from a practical point of view, it really works great to not have a lot of time for the aircraft to be stationed in Medina for an extended period of time. Bringing people back into Addis, and then they can continue their onward journey, is actually the most probably the most profitable way that the airline may have seen this to be going forward for them.
Well, Ahmed, thank you very much for your insights. That was Newzroom Afrika's reporter Ahmed Kajee, helping us make sense of developments in the aviation matters.